Welcome back to a new video. So this video is going to be talking about my next block of training and kind of the rough draft of what I want the next 11 weeks to look like. Obviously things will change. I've only done 3 days, so I haven't even completed one full week to kind of get a feel of how the full week will go. But the general idea is to focus a lot more on weightlifting specific work, but of course still doing some things that are related to strength training. So lots of volume in the squat and stuff. And now that I'm here recording this video, there are some things that I will probably already change. I've already done the first 3 days and I like how they felt and how they were structured. But for the subsequent 3 days and the last day, there'll be some things that I'll be changing around as I kind of feel through the training days, because I have some things that are drafted out, but I'll talk about those as I go through. But as a just a general reference, max snatch right now 130, 160 clean jerk, and then back squat 237. And as another reference, I didn't put it on here, but the best front squat I've ever done, I believe, is 195. So anything above 190 is really heavy for the front squat, which I'm going to be doing a lot more of. So let's go through here and I'll kind of talk about things. Obviously, like I said, it's a rough draft, but I wanted to put this together and kind of just, put my thoughts out there as far as what I want my block of training to look like, and let it be a working document. So this would be day one. Obviously, this is the full 11-week progression. I have muscle snatches every day. That's definitely an optional exercise for me. Now that it's colder, I actually kind of like doing them because it physically warms me up, and I just like doing the exercise. So on a day like this, it will always just be 70 for a triple, just never anything more than that. There's no point of pushing that. But the goal on snatches on this day is to do doubles. And originally I put 6 sets of 2 at a certain weight, but when I went through the first day, I kind of liked the feeling of doing more of a pyramid. So on day one here, I did 80, 90 for 2, 100 for 2 doubles, then dropped back down to 90 and 80 for a double. So I've only done obviously the first day of the first week, but I liked how this progression felt. So then in theory, when I move to the next week, the goal is still to have 6 doubles in total and to push up to 105 for those 2 doubles. And so eventually dropping off that like 80 for 2, and then kind of not really dropping it off. Like I'll probably still do it, but not really counting it, and then having that drop down. Then you can kind of see the progression as it goes. I'm not doing the 80 for 2 as a drop down set, which I don't like that I put the ×2 there, but is what it is. Then get up to 110 for 2 doubles, drop down to 90, and then up to 115. And obviously this is by feel. Like 115 for 2 doubles would definitely be really difficult, so I might not be able to do it on that day. But the goal is to build with these doubles, but also to do them without straps. So that will make it a little bit more difficult, but also kind of keep that momentum that I've been having without depending too much on straps, even if I'm doing doubles, which I was able to do on this day. But I actually made the adjustment with it because I don't want my hands to get entirely destroyed, to where I did 80, 90, and the first double with 100 without straps, and then the second double, and then the 90 and 80 with straps after, to kind of save my hands. So I'll probably continue that unless I'm finding that my hands are just feeling really good and I'm not worried about like the any calluses or anything like that. But that'll be kind of an adjustment there. With clean jerks, I'll be doing doubles, so a 1+1 clean jerk with this day, at least until the end of the block, as I'll talk about here in a second. Really difficult to do, but the same kind of idea, to get 6 total sets in as the kind of a pyramid. So worked up to 125, 2 doubles there, and then drop down to 115 and 100. Definitely really difficult to do, but I think it'll be good for me to do, especially the last jerk of the complex, if you want to call it that. And then similar thing is adding 5 kilos each time I'm doing that, trying to increase that top set, and then taking out some of the drop down sets with working up to 145 here. That's another thing to note. This is something I got from Seek Strength, with kind of how their progression went, to where it's linear for the first 5 weeks, and then you drop back down, albeit with a little bit more weight than what you started at with week 1, to linearly progress again for the second half. So it's kind of like 2 halves of a program, a full 11-week block, I suppose. But the goal on this week 5 is obviously, the heaviest of the 5 weeks, but not true max out weights. Then we drop back down to week 6. So it's basically just doing week 2, 3, 4, and then eventually potentially doing, you know, really nice heavy weights with here, maybe doing 125 for double. I might adjust as week 10. That's where it kind of gets a little, you know, out there with where I'll be at that point. But the goal is probably singles on this day, week 10 as well, and then pushing for a max or a heavy single on this week 11 day. In a perfect world, I would do the 133 since I just did 130. So that'd be really good on that day. But like I said, this is a rough draft, and this is kind of like, you can get the idea of what I'm pushing towards, but obviously things will adjust and adapt as I move forward, and maybe these weights won't be as heavy as I get later in this progression. Clean jerks, a similar thing, where I get to here, and then I do, which I actually kind of wrote this correctly for the clean jerk, so I will probably do a similar thing for snatching, to where instead of doing doubles like I did in week 8, I just did singles all the way up, so smaller jumps than normal, but 2 singles at 145, and then in week 10 2 singles at 150, then giving myself an attempt at potentially 163. It's going 150, 155, maybe 163. You know, these jumps might change, of course, so I might go 150 and then like 157 to go to 163, something like that. We'll see. You know, that's definitely down the line. As far as the front squat progression, so I'm adding those back in and doing them for volume. I was hoping to originally do these at 120 or 125 for a 5x5, but I found that 100 was just a good weight. This progression might change dramatically because volume with the front squats for me are really difficult. But the idea is, you know, take pretty big jumps, but as the weight increases pretty dramatically, the reps that I'll do, the total volume will drop down to potentially doing, you know, 3 singles at 180. And it's kind of how I looked at it, is like, is this a possible thing for me to do? And I definitely think, you know, doing 180 for 1, of course, is possible. I think I could do it for 3 singles. I've doubled 160 before, so they're not impossible numbers. The more difficult ones will probably be like 140, which, like, I've done it for, you know, sets of 3, multiple sets of 3 before, so it's realistic things for me to do as far as front squat goes. What will get kind of interesting is in this next 6 weeks, so we drop back down to a 5x5 at 110, and then jump up to 130 to 150 for a 5x3, 170 for a 4x2, which that's kind of a similar idea as what I took with back squats, where it's like, all right, now I'm starting to get to weights that, like, I probably, like, I doubled 170 before, I believe, but it's like very maximal. And then doing 190 for 3 singles, that would be like a crazy good session. And then potentially trying, you know, a maximal single in the front squat. And of course, you know, that's after doing a max snatch and clean jerk, so maybe that doesn't happen. But like, honestly, if I get up to doing 190 and anything above that, if I did the 195, I'd be really happy with that. That'd be a really good single for that day. So it all kind of depends, and, you know, this progression might change, like I said, but the idea is, you know, build the volume for 5 weeks and then reset. So that's kind of the first day of the week, how that would look. I'm not going to go through that in that much detail for each one, because you'll kind of get the idea. But on the second day, it's lighter, but I'm also progressing the muscle snatches up throughout the 5 weeks, and then it goes back down to ending with 85 kilos for a double, which I've done before, so it's not an unrealistic thing for me to try to do again. No foot power snatches, similar thing, just a pyramid, so just getting doubles in and really just trying to work on technique, keeping the weights lighter. Theoretically, I would keep adding weight. I'm envisioning that potentially, like, once I get up to like 100 for potentially a double, it might be a little bit too much, where I might have to do a full no foot snatch instead of a power snatch. So that might be something that I change as I move on. But as far as the power clean and the overhead press, 3 power cleans, 5 overhead presses, wasn't too difficult on this session here. Both these exercises weren't too difficult to do, so I definitely know I have more weight to add, that it won't be too difficult. But the idea, you know, 3 power cleans, overhead press, and then the reps drop down, the sets drop down, then the reps drop down, sets and reps drop down, till, you know, 1 power clean, 2 overhead presses with 90, which I've doubled 90 before, but that'd definitely be a good double to do. And then snatch pulls, you know, pretty simple progression, 5x3 for 2 weeks, 4x3s for 2 weeks, ending with a 3x3. And then that repeats to the end, where I do 3 doubles instead of 3 triples, which honestly, you know, maybe I just do 3 triples on that day. I'm not really too stressed about that day. And then similar thing, you know, progressing up to potentially, I don't think I'll be able to do a no foot power snatch with these weights, maybe 105. I feel like that's the most I've done. But maybe like 108 or, you know, 110 would be a crazy good no foot power snatch. That would be basically what I've power snatched in general. My best power snatch is 115. I've power snatched 110 a couple times, but anything above 100 is really good for me in any version of the power snatch. But for the power clean overhead press, potentially trying 103. I believe that's a PR. Basically, on this day, I would try to max out my overhead press. So whatever I get with that, and then snatch pulls there. So, you know, you can kind of see the idea there. And then on this day, it's very similar to the first day. There's just not the volume sets. So I did this day today, just earlier, where I did doubles at this weight and then a double at 105. I actually missed the first set of doubles. So I did 1 rep and then I missed the 2nd rep and I came back and made it, which is good. In theory, I'd be able to do doubles, and then some singles here. This is where I'll probably change things and keep this weight here, like this week 4, and just repeat it there. And then maybe make this like 150. I don't know. Like I don't want to push as hard on this day because the goal is still to, you know, obviously train, but then not to do as much volume in the weightlifting movements, which I actually realized that I didn't need to do clean jerk double. I actually did 130 for a double today. I did several doubles today in the clean jerk. And I meant to just do singles on this day because I'm doing so much volume on that first day in the classics. And so I want this day to be, you know, some volume like in the snatch, but for the clean jerk less, because it's just a more difficult exercise to do. And in hindsight, you know, it wasn't that big of a deal because it's only 130, but as I progressed, just to do singles, building up, just to practice the lift a little bit without doing too much volume. And that might be a similar thing that I do with snatching on this day. I might change these doubles and just doing singles and then push up. So like I did the doubles at 100 earlier in the week on day 1, and then instead of doing, you know, doubles all the way, I might just go 100 to 105 for a single, and then this next week when I do the doubles at 105 on that first day, to do 110 for, you know, just work up to a single with 110 and just progress that way. I think that might be a bit easier to do and kind of save my hands a little bit, but also just make this session generally easier. Same thing with the muscle snatches, keeping them all at 70. And again, optional exercise. Like if I really don't want to do it or go up to 70 or whatever, then I just won't. But most of the time I could basically always muscle snatch. So it just always feels good to do. So I'll probably do them a lot. And so that's certainly something that I'm going to be changing most likely on these days. Maybe not, but I imagine that I'll probably want to not do as many doubles if I'm doing them on day 1. The other difference is the back squats instead of front squats on this day. So I, for some reason, convinced myself to do them at 140. I originally booked to do them at 130, but decided to do them at 140. They weren't too bad. I got a nice quad pump, but definitely, you know, getting the lungs back, definitely didn't feel fantastic with that, but weren't too difficult. And instead of doing, you know, multiple sessions with the 3x10 in the back squat, going to a similar thing, 3x8 the next week, 3x5, 4x2, and then a 2x2 at 220, which will be quite difficult. And then waving back down, I suppose, to the 150, and then going all the way to 230 for a 2x2 to potentially trying that 240 back squat. 237, like I mentioned at the very beginning, is a PR I just recently hit. I definitely think that 240 is in the tank, like it's there. If I didn't miss groove 225, I was going to 100% try 240, and I'm pretty confident that I would have hit it. The problem is I just didn't have the confidence to do 240 because the 225, I honestly misgrooved it, which for not being really good at squats is something I don't generally do. But it wasn't as if I got pushed forward or back, it just moved slow. And I'm assuming that my balance was just a little bit off on that one. But 240 would be really cool to do on that day, but one of those things, like if I did the 230 for 2 doubles, that would be insane. That'd be really good because that's a 230 is my best double for, you know, 1 set of doubles, and that was already a really big PR. So if I was able to do that for 2 doubles, that'd be really good. Then, you know, getting up to whatever, you know, I'm trying not to stress about, you know, necessarily getting up to those numbers, just kind of giving myself the option to potentially do those numbers. Move to the next heavier session. So this is just basically the same progression as day 1, which is why I didn't change anything with it. So basically everything's going to be the same on this day. So you know, day 1, 2, 3, and then this is back to day 1, which is why when I look at this, it seems like it's too much, as far as, you know, having this day, particularly at the end. So this might be less, it might be more deloaded, it might be more similar to this day. It might be more similar, or not to this day, it might be more similar to this day, so it might be 2 similar days like that. We'll see though. Yeah, this is the next day of training, and so I'll have to kind of look to see how I'm planning things. But that's kind of like day 1 is, you know, a pretty important day. 2 is more technical practice, strength work, pulling, and then today was more practice in the snatch and clean jerk, so back squat volume. Also on this first day I actually did some pull-ups and some, what else did I do? I did like 2 extra exercises. I did some back extensions too, so that might be a day where I just get extra work in. So maybe I get to this this day here and I'm just absolutely trashed and I don't want to do anything. But in theory, I'd be able to do what I did on day 1 again. Maybe not. Maybe that's you know, too much. But I think at a minimum, I would like to do the front squats again, continue to build that volume in. So then, you know, as we get to, you know, week 9, 10, 11, like that's where I'll have to kind of really make adjustments and kind of like really think about, you know, what days I want to do whatever on, because it probably will be really difficult to do the same front squat sessions like on week 10 multiple times in a week. So that will be an adjustment that I make for sure. And then on this day, this is another day that I'll probably make another adjustment in the current week. So the main adjustment is, instead of doing no foot power snatches, they'll just be full snatches. So it'll just be almost an easier day in that regard. So not trying to just do no foot snatches essentially. And then instead of doing power clean and overhead presses, doing power clean and push presses. And then instead of doing snatch pulls, doing clean pulls. So just essentially 2 days of pulling in a sense. Yeah, so those are going to be some, like the muscle snatch will probably stay the same. The weight progression, honestly, I'll probably just keep that mostly the same. Push presses, of course, I'll have to add a little bit of weight from what's here, since I'll be able to do more than the overhead presses. But the idea of, you know, doing the 3+5 and all of that will stay the same. Will just be push press instead of overhead presses. And then this would be day 6. So similar thing as the third day. So this would potentially be a better day. So this is like, I need to adjust this day. This day needs to not be as crazy, because on this day, day 6, that's where it can be very similar to the first day. So the first day is, you know, heavy intensity. This day, similar regard as that first day. So then the back squat would be like a good thing to push on this day a little bit, or at least towards that week 9 and 10. So those are, you know, it's all a draft. And like I said, I've only gone through the first 3 days. So the next 3, really 4, since, you know, I'm training every day, I'll have to kind of play around and feel with what I want to do. The last day, pretty simple, no, you know, just the same. I only put the 1 week because it's just going to be the same thing every day. So it's like a day off essentially. The weights are going to stay the same. It's just moving. Maybe instead of snatch pulls, I do clean pulls. Maybe I do extra cardio on that day. But the idea is just to practice the weights a little bit. You know, if I'm feeling good, maybe I push up the overhead press a little bit. But it's trying to be a non-stress day as far as what I want. So in conclusion, this day will be, day 6 will be a heavy day where I push, especially towards the end with all the exercises. So potentially, you know, week 9 and 10 and 11, this would be where I'd be trying to, you know, hit that, get up to that 230 for 2x2 and that double back squat. As I get to the end of the progression, the front squat, like this day will probably have to be changed a little bit. And then, you know, as I get into the last week, like maybe this day is a bit lighter as far as the squatting goes, so I can save it for that day 6. But it's kind of my general draft of my next 11 weeks. As you can see, there's some things I definitely have to change, and it's definitely a draft. But that's kind of my idea, is in general have 5 weeks where I'm pushing linearly as far as the volume and the intensity, and then it resets in that week 6. I push 4 or 5 more weeks, and that week 11 is like the peak week or whatever, kind of how I just had. The big thing that will change with that, so as I'm sitting here, I kind of want to look ahead. So I finished the first week, so this will be week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I get into January, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I believe this would get me to about the middle of February, assuming nothing changed with these 11 weeks, or at least the first or second week, maybe like the first week of February, maybe the second week. And I think honestly the time frame, I think the 11 weeks is a good time frame, because from this point in that February, I would then be able to look at March, April, and May in those months, and kind of plan a block of training for then, and kind of see where I'm at, and then plan for that competition in May. So that's definitely down the line. But this next 11 weeks I think will be pretty important for me to not necessarily hit PRs and everything, but to continue to build and hopefully be able to push that the snatch and clean jerk up a little bit. If I also hit PRs in the strength numbers, that's good as well. But it's not as if I think hopefully I got that across as I've talked through this, is it's not as if I'm not going to be pushing the strength numbers, but it's if I get to the end of the block and I don't PR my squat or my front squat, I'm not really that focused on it in that sense. Obviously I want to push them up and build the volume in that, but I would like to be able to give myself some opportunities to hit some good snatches and clean jerks. With how much volume I'm going to be planning on doing, I think that will be, especially based on how I've been feeling with very low volume in the snatch and clean jerk recently, I think adding a lot of that volume in will be good. Obviously the big X factor is illness, injury, all that stuff, so that could all change. But based on how this last week or last block of training went, and how well back squats and everything went, with only one hiccup with a back strain just from a front squat, when I really didn't need to be doing them, frankly, and just making that adjustment and then still hitting some really good numbers, it's really encouraging. It tells me that strength is going up, of course, if literally has gone up, and that the classics have responded well to it, and with very low specificity to them, or I guess low volume, because I've been very specific with just doing singles with it, so not a lot of practice with the lifts, just singles with it. And so it's encouraging because my shoulders feeling really good, even though with the 130 and the 160, if you look back at the video, like obviously the lockout isn't great, so that's why I want to add in a lot of the overhead press and the push press to really work on that overhead position. But now it's not really mobility, it's not really discomfort that I have that's creating that press out. It's more of a strength thing. Obviously I still want to continue to push the volume, or to push the mobility, as of course the strength as well, but I think that now that my shoulder I think is as close to 100% as it's ever going to get, and it's really nice because when I'm warming up, I'm not like trying to get it going, not trying to loosen it up or worried about it. I'm just training and trying to do the lifts correctly, which is essentially back where I was. Might even not even been like early in the spring, because I remember having some discomfort in the shoulder then, or at least some issues with pressing out. So as long as I continue to build that up, the overhead position, the main thing I'm working on with that to build that is the overhead press and the push press. So not a lot of snatch push press or snatch balance with that. That also could be something that changes on one of these days. Maybe I have that on one of the 3-day 4, 5, and 6 on one of those days, maybe on day 4 or 5, maybe even day 7. But it's one of those things that's a pretty strenuous exercise for me to do, and I feel like if I did 75% of what I have on here, it's a good amount of volume to do. But just feel like making this video. I had Sunday, so I have some extra time, and like I said, it's a draft of what my ideas were for this next block of training. And things will change definitely for days 4, 5, 6, and maybe even 7. But the idea is kind of like 2 5-week blocks, and then the week 11 being that big peak. So I guess that would be mid-February, and then we start looking. At that point, I'll have a better idea where my strength is and what I need to work on as I go into the spring months. And hopefully the goal long term, as far as a competition in May that I'll probably do, is to do 130 in the snatch. Not really as a minimum, but like that's the goal, to be able to hit that. If I hit more, that'd be really good. I did 126 in my last one. Then the 130 I did there was what injured my shoulder in the last spring, or this past spring, and did 166 in the clean jerk. So if I'm able to do potentially a 300 total, if I was able to do or get up to like 133 in the snatch, doing anything more than 166, so 167 would give me that 300 total. And I think that's pretty, it's difficult, of course, but I don't think it's unrealistic to push towards those numbers. So in theory, I would try like 127, go to 130, then 133 in the snatch. Obviously that will change if training's going really well and I feel like I can open up heavier, but conservatively those would be or ideally those would be the attempts I would take. So 127, 30, 33. And then even if, say that I missed 130 and came back and made it, or, didn't make it at all, I would still have a decent attempt or a decent opportunity to, at least attempt a 300 total. If I hit 130, 127 would be a little bit much. To get up to, would be like what, 173? Yeah, that'd be a little bit too much. But if I hit the 133, that would set me up to hit a 300 total on my second attempt. If on clean jerks I did something like 162 or 163 on my first attempt, probably 162, and then jump to 167, because that'd be a competition PR and a lifetime PR, but 1 kilo more than I did in the previous meet, and then trying that magical 170. And like I said with snatch, things could change, things could be going great, and I want to try more, or I feel confident to open up heavier, but just gotta get stronger. You gotta stay healthy, gotta continue to try to get better technique. I think with the no foot snatches, I think I'm gonna accomplish that a little bit, and then with clean jerks, just need to get brutally strong. That's the big key, I think, with those. But yeah, I think I've rambled on long enough. So if you made it to this point in the video, I appreciate it. If you have any questions or suggestions about things I could add in, particularly for those days 4, 5, and 6, even more so specifically those days 4 and 5, ideas to adjust and adapt on those days, because I'm definitely open to changing those days in particular. Days 1, 2, and 3, I like how those felt, so I'm pretty locked into those days. And day 6 will probably be pretty locked in, because I'm pretty happy with how day 1 went. So just kind of like having that day happen again wouldn't be the worst thing. And then day 7 is like a light day, so suggestions on that day as well, because I'm not opposed to changing that day or just doing random stuff on that day. That could be beneficial. But that's going to be it for this one. So I appreciate it if you made it to this point or to any of my videos. And yeah, I hope you all have a great day and take care.